Hi, Genevieve Jacobs from Region Media, and I'm at Malaganas Edwards Johnson with Kate Waterford, who's a partner here, to talk about human rights, about human dignity, and the surprisingly infrequently discussed topic of birth trauma. Kate, wonderful to have you here. I know you got into law because you wanted to change the world. The surname, of course, is very familiar to many Canberrans. You've got in your DNA this idea of helping people by speaking out. Tell me about that choice of a career and how it led here to the MEJ offices.
Well, I got into law and found very quickly that the human stories were what grabbed me most. It was always those subjects that involved interesting situations that people had gotten into that motivated me to listen, to learn, and to try to work out how I could myself apply those in social justice situations to make the world a better place. I actually spent some years in my 20s working in India in human rights law and got a lot out of that because I found that I could make a difference at an individual level and at a societal level. So when I came back to Canberra and I found my home at Malaganas Edwards Johnson, I was really pleased to be able to act for individuals and make their lives a better place.
And I just want to draw a thread with human rights and with dignity, because you've also been the Australian Vice President of Amnesty International. So there is this idea that a person's innate dignity is something that is important and that can be protected by the law.
That's absolutely right. The law does do that. People often need lawyers to help them navigate the complexity of it, to find their own dignity, to find their voice, to find their rights. I've volunteered for Amnesty International for many years, going all the way back to high school, and sat on the board and now continue to chair board committees. I also chair an international anti-trafficking organisation currently. I try to find all the different ways that I can to contribute to elevating those individual voices who've been victims of injustice.
And look, I can see that thread linking the passions you've always nurtured and where you've landed in your career. So let's just look at that through a slightly different lens and tell me how the work that's associated with birth trauma has come about.
I have specialised in medical negligence for a number of years, and I lead our medical negligence practice. And typically medical negligence claims are brought because somebody has been in a very vulnerable situation. They've been seeking medical treatment, they've been injured, and they're trying to come to terms with having been much worse off from that treatment than they ever anticipated, working through disabilities, losses, trying to adjust. Birth trauma in particular grabbed my heart because it is this moment that the family, the parents are expecting to have one of the most beautiful experiences of their life, and often it's been completely derailed. Things have gone terribly badly wrong. There are complications and long-term impact for their family that they never saw coming. So for me, acting in those cases is about giving them an opportunity to have that injustice brought to light and having their story told, having recognition for them, and ultimately getting justice for them.
So let's just unpack that a little. Many women will have war stories. All of us who've had babies can talk about the times that were really tough in doing so. What's the difference between that and a matter where there's a genuine question of negligence?
Well, the human body is complex, medicine is complex, and not everybody gets a good outcome from medical treatment. But the cases where you're entitled to compensation is where the doctor or the hospital has not provided reasonable treatment, has not provided treatment up to a reasonable standard of care, and that has led to a worse outcome. So that's where we step in and are able to act for people to get compensation.
I would imagine that it's also quite difficult to get women to talk about this. And when I said war stories a moment ago, I guess people will often evolve a story that explains what happened, but beneath that there can be very deep trauma, a lot of pain, a lot of psychological issues even for some people. How do you unpack what really happened?
I find that people do want to tell their stories. It can be very hard for them to do so, and sometimes they need a lot of support, compassion, respect, sometimes professional support to work through it as well, but they want to get it off their chest. They want to work through what has happened to them. And that's not just women, That's often parents, family members, others who have been part of it.
Yeah, it can be tremendously emotional, and I think many people have had things affect them deeply and profoundly, and perhaps there is a matter of negligence that's associated with that, and that's part of the resolution, the healing journey, as much as any other outcomes. I was really surprised though, Kate, to learn that there are only actually a handful of lawyers specialising in this in Australia.
I think that's true. Medical negligence has existed for a long time, but birth trauma is only now starting to be recognised. And in fact, when one of my co-directors of the Australasian Birth Trauma Association founded it in 2017, you could almost Google birth trauma at that point and not come up with anything at all. Whereas these days, increasingly through our work, through the cases that I'm bringing at Malaganas, it's starting to have a real recognition.
And so I guess, as we said, there's a process of healing involved. So speaking up can be part of healing. It can be part of finding closure over something that was very problematic. But there's also a possibility, since this deals with negligence, that you can be part of enacting systemic change that helps ensure women's safety.
That's absolutely right. We have to call these things out, bring them to light, talk about what's happened with each other, work through them with health professionals at a hospital level, at a state level. There's so much work to be done to bring them out, and I think that medical negligence cases are a really important piece of that puzzle.
Kate, more power to your arm. This is really important work, and thank you for everything you're doing, and thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you.
And I'm Genevieve Jacobs. This is Region Media.